Dr. Schmidt and Dr. Bhatia, how would dismantling or delaying the CHIPS and Science Act programs impact America's global competitiveness, especially in AI innovation?
Thank you, Congressman Matsui, for your support of the CHIPS Act and our industry over your entire career. We are the only U.S. memory company, and our investments bring tremendous value across leading-edge memory solutions, as well as across other segments like the automotive industry, aerospace, defense. So we believe our investments in our more than $100 billion plan over the next 20 years will bring tremendous value, and we're actually encouraged by the executive order to create an accelerator program for large-scale projects through the CHIPS office, through the Department of Commerce, to be able to ensure that our projects.
So you don't want any slowing down, right? No pausing.
That's right. That's right. I think the accelerator's goal is to be able to make sure that the projects can be successful.
Dr. Schmidt?
A number of us were very strong supporters of your legislation for the following reason. 25 years ago, we made a mistake as a country, and we got out of this business.
My question here is, what are the consequences for American power and national security if they were able to retaliate and restrict access to American services in their market because we've chosen to restrict goods in their market? In response to that.
So the good news on this is all of these countries, most of them, have said that they are not going to retaliate and they want to talk to us. And they're mindful that even though we have surpluses in many of these areas, they still have a lot of barriers against our folks, right? And this giant book that we put out, that I hope one day we never have to put out again, a lot of this are about the services barriers we have, including in our friendly partners. So my expectation is that they will bring those barriers down. That's my expectation.
And this is where I draw some optimism.
Today, China represents one of our nation's greatest geopolitical threats. The Chinese Communist Party actively undermines our security by stealing intellectual property, launching cyber attacks, and exploiting every loophole possible to gain access to cutting-edge U.S. technology. Their goal is clear: to surpass the U.S. economically and militarily, and they're willing to do whatever it takes, including using our own technology against us.
But we know that on the other side, there is the hope of the resurrection. And so that gives me a great deal of encouragement in moments like these. And I have to say, as a Christian, for me, the cross is an eternal symbol that evil always goes too far. It overreaches. Yeah. And that cross reminds you of that. And so in these moments when it may feel like lies are winning, yeah, where the poor and the marginalized are being crushed, we have to take the long view and hang in there, engage in joy as an act of resistance.
The folks arrived at Kyrgyzstan on January 15th, and what was supposed to be one of the best moments of their life quickly turned into a series of unexpected setbacks, facing several legal battles, the main one not being able to get Nora's visa.
She would call every morning, then I would email every day, hey, is there updates? We really need to get home.
Nora has Down syndrome and suffers from a heart condition which needs immediate surgery. She was on a wait list since birth, but was never able to get it. The Volks family grew impatient and decided to take matters into their own hands, asking their Facebook friends for help.
There are different avenues that states are utilizing at the state level to protect people from some of this content. But, it's not just videos that are out there on the internet, but parents have to, we as women and as parents have to know what our kids are doing too. Mm-hmm. But, look at some of the books, the pornography and books in our school libraries that children are exposed to. So we have a long way to go to protect people from that kind of content, particularly young people and under.
But I think we can't ignore a step that VA took just 6 days ago. VA and DOJ unilaterally ended the Veterans Affairs Servicing Purchase Program, which is a critical home loan assistance program that serves an estimated 15,000 veterans today. The abrupt ending of VAFS will have a devastating impact on veterans. Thousands of vets and their families are at risk of losing their homes. There's no question about that, especially as there's no functional alternative in place or one that's expected to be signed into law anytime soon.
This Resolution. Request for information on the Trump administration's effort to improve education is a waste of time. I'm convinced it's motivated by malice toward the president and the idea that out-of-touch bureaucrats know how to take care of students better than parents. It's already been stated. President Trump's executive order was very clear. The Secretary of Education is making preparations to close the department, but the services required by law must continue flowing to all of those who need them. We've got to recognize that as the head of the executive branch, President Trump has the right to conduct oversight over a department under his purview. And it's certainly not necessary for Congress to go to these extents, even to the point of requesting documentation of phone calls and emails between staff, as this resolution does. I would suggest that rather than attacking the president for his efforts to improve education, our committee should be working program by program to transition those services from the federal government to the states or to the people, as has already been discussed. We need to put parents, states, localities, and school districts back in charge. I oppose this resolution, and I hope my colleagues will do the same. Chairman, I yield back my time.
Republicans are trying to ram through their $1 trillion tax cut for the wealthy, which requires them to cut benefits for Americans. And in order to distract everyone from that, they've set up a couple judiciary hearings today. There was one earlier involving immigration. We're about to go into one now involving transgender care, because that's what they do. They tee up the culture war issues in order to distract everyone from the fact that they are really trying to cut the critical services, Medicaid, Social Security, SNAP, WIC, all the things that everyday Americans rely upon.
The economic data tells us that the washing machine companies passed along the 20% tariff and then padded the price increase, sometimes by 15%, sometimes by 50%. But it's worse than that. The price increase was not just for imported washing machines. They also increased the price of the domestic washing machines that weren't subject to the tariff. Why not? Why not? The Trump administration won't hold us accountable for that. Nobody really looks to see whether the washing machine was made in America or not. We'll just raise the price on everything. What do you buy when you buy a washing machine as well? A dryer. So guess what happens? Even though dryers weren't subject to the tariff, the price got jacked up on the dryers as well. Dryers went up by 50% sometimes in cost, 15%, 20%. All of a sudden, prices went up for everything. Now, Trump collected a bunch of money in tariffs, $80 billion, but that was literally just middle-class people paying the additional amount to the company and the company passing it along to the government.
Trump accepted some goods, notably oil, but not others, including things we simply cannot produce in the United States. Why tariff bananas? Why tariff cocoa? Why tariff coffee? We don't have the capacity to produce these things at a scale that meets domestic demand. Trump logic equates any trade deficit with cheating. In fact, he called it rape. But even this stupid logic didn't help Australia or Brazil or Singapore, all countries with whom we have a trade surplus.
I mean, look, we are in a de facto Cold War with the Chinese right now. They do not play by the rules, whether it be at the WTO, let alone their environmental regulations that simply don't exist. It's tough to compete with slave labor on top of it out of China. What the president is saying is that we are a good neighbor. We're a nation you can trade with trust, and we're looking out for your best interest as we take on this communist dictatorship around the world who manipulate markets.
I think that the Senate really gave the middle finger to President Trump whenever they did that, because it's a major part of his plan on right-sizing government and eventually balancing the budget during his administration. So this in no way is going to help him achieve those goals. It's going to probably exacerbate the debt market. And what I mean is it's going to continue to raise interest rates, and you're going to see inflation go up, because when government spends money, it causes inflation.
But our very existence is under attack. And this has happened by dirty, greedy, lazy politicians and bureaucrats who have plunged you and chained you in $36 trillion in debt. You are under attack, and you've been under attack by your own federal government. We're here today proudly to talk about how we can reduce this debt.
What President Trump did is he's finally stepped up and said something that he started talking about back in 1988 on Oprah's show, saying that they were taking advantage of us. We have to stop the bleeding. If we didn't do it, then what generation was going to happen? Because this isn't about just today. What President Trump is doing is he's looking at the economy 10, 15, 20 years down the road, because that's what a business guy, not a politician, that's what a business guy does.